Hi, 10th literature students. So I'm going to be discussing what your virtual online learning assignments are going to be for the next couple of days, as well as kind of what our schedule looks like going forward. So I decided that over the next 2 days, you guys are going to be writing a narrative, okay? Now, I talked to you guys earlier this semester about your memoir and what your strengths and weaknesses were from that. So please make sure that you pay really close attention to what you did well on that, as well as what you could do to improve because this narrative is going to be a test grade. So it's going to have a significant impact on your grade, and it really should show your learning from that first narrative assignment. So if you didn't include enough sensory imagery, for example, you need to include more in this assignment. If your time period was too long during the first memoir assignment, your time period for this one needs to be the appropriate length. So just make sure again that you take my advice, my comments, my feedback from that draft and you apply it as you're writing this narrative. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of discuss this narrative, what it's going to look like, and how to go about writing it. So for this assignment, you're going to write a narrative from the perspective of a Jew during the Holocaust. You're going to pick one major event to describe to your audience that takes place in about an hour of time. And guys, the reason that your time period is so short is I don't want you to tell a whole long story. I don't want you to go on for a long time about all these different things that your main character had to endure. It should just be one major single event. So for instance, I've had some students tell the story of sort of arriving at camp and the selection process, and they either end their narrative with them living another day or them being gassed in the gas chambers. Okay. I've had some students tell about a hanging. So maybe it was a hanging of a loved one, or maybe it was your main character that ended up hanging for something, for a crime that they committed. I've had some students talk about escaping the camp. So they wanted to tell the story of a Jew who tried to escape. Maybe they were successful, maybe they weren't, but it's just that 1 hour of time of them trying to escape and what they experienced. I've had some students talk about, being taken from their home. So, sort of think back to chapter 1 in Night, where Ellie and his father were taken from their home. I've had some students do where like they're hiding from the Nazis and the Nazis find them and take them away. Again, it doesn't. It's up to you what your main event is. Okay, just make sure that you pick something that's a very narrow event. So everything that takes place should take place about an hour's worth of time. You're going to build to that major event using description, imagery, dialogue, reflection, meaning inner thoughts, and then also certain literary elements that I'll discuss later. This paper should be at least 5 paragraphs long. It's not a 5 paragraph essay, but it is a narrative that should be pretty long. 650 words should be the minimum. However, it can be much longer. So you're going to use first and third person. You'll be telling this from the first person point of view using I. So you are the Jew during the Holocaust. You're telling it from their perspective. Try to not use second person if at all possible, you and your, just so that you don't address your reader in that way. All right, in your first paragraph, you're going to introduce basically the conflict, the setting, and then you're going to describe yourself, your main character. So who are you? What are you like? What do you value? What's important to you? Um, so really kind of focus on giving us some background information. Everything from the body paragraphs through the conclusion should take place in 1 hour's worth of time. So you're going to just describe a specific event during the Holocaust. This should show some sort of struggle or hardship that your character had to endure. So you're going to build to that one major event in a sort of a logical sequence of events. Include dialogue and inner thoughts. Remember to italicize your inner thoughts. Remember to set your dialogue apart from the rest of the text by putting quotes around what's said out loud, as well as indenting every time a new speaker speaks. Make sure that you include lots of description and sensory imagery. I am going to actually post a video a little later on where I talk about sensory imagery as well as some examples of similes, metaphor, personification, and foreshadowing. Basically, a really big part of this narrative is trying to have you guys go to the next level with description. So really describing what is your character feeling, seeing, tasting, touching, etc. Really trying to include some figurative language in there to really show your reader what the struggle or the hardship that you're having to endure. So again, I'll post some more information about that a little bit later. In your conclusion, this is going to be the reflection or the resolution of the major event. So it should flow from the narrated experiences, and it should also describe sort of the raw emotion or the reaction to the events. So here are the assignments and due dates. So today, you guys are going to tell me what your main event is going to be, okay? And then you're also going to write your first 200 words. And I know that some of you guys are using your phones to do that. So if it's easier, you can write it out on a sheet of notebook paper, take a picture of that and upload that. And then on Wednesday, when we're in the lab, you can type it all out. Or if you would rather, type it out on your phone, the first 200 words, that's fine as well. Just make sure that you are making significant progress and that you're uploading what you're doing every day to show that you're making progress on this assignment. Tomorrow you will do your next 300 words, so you should have about 500 words written after today and tomorrow. And then on Wednesday of this week, you're going to have the entire class period to work in class on your narrative. So you'll put the final touches on it. You'll do the last 150, 200 words. You'll make sure that you label your literary elements, and I'll talk about that in a little bit and how to do that. But again, just make sure that you're being very descriptive as you write this paper. So I want to go ahead and discuss with you how you're going to be graded. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that up. This looks probably pretty similar to your memoir rubric, but there are a couple of changes. So you need to make sure that you develop your characters, especially your main character, through interesting inner thoughts. So make sure you italicize your inner thoughts, okay, to set it apart from the text. And then it says includes dialogue that has tone and facial expressions. So remember to include, when you're doing dialogue, make sure you include information about tone and facial expression so I really understand what's being said and how it's being said, okay? For the organization, there needs to be a smooth progression of events using a variety of techniques, and it needs to be a short time frame, okay? So this is where if you try to do too much and tell too much of a story, you're going to lose points here because it needs to be about an hour's worth of time. So really you're picking just one major event that happens and describing that in a lot of detail. All right, so for sensory language, and again, I'll post a video about sensory language and how to incorporate that into your narrative a little bit later, but you need to have effective sensory language or details throughout that appeals to lots of senses. So in other words, what are you seeing? What are you smelling? Okay, what are you touching, tasting? All those senses are important. Okay, so trying to not just have just sight words, but also including some of the other senses as well. It should be very descriptive. So you need to have, I don't want to put an exact number on it, but 35, 40, really sensory imagery, words, phrases, really trying to describe what happened in a lot of detail and describe the sort of horrific experience that that your main character experiences. So as far as grammar, very few errors and none that interfere with meaning. This is what's a little bit different. There is an added section on literary elements. So it includes examples of foreshadowing, personification, similes, and metaphors that enhance narrative. So I'm going to be posting a video a little later about what foreshadowing, personification, simile, and metaphors are. And then you're going to include some of that in your narrative. And then again, in your final draft, you will make sure that's underlined, and then in the margins you will label that so I know where your example of each one is. For the conclusion, it should be really effective. It should show the emotion or the reaction to the main event. If you're describing your death, you should describe that in a lot of detail. So again, it's going to be kind of different for everybody. All right. So that is how you are being graded. So let's go back to what you need to do for today. So for today, for Monday, you need to make sure that you send me a document where you say what your main event is, and then you need to share what your first 200 words written are. I'm going to be posting a video a little later on where I talk about sensory imagery and description and how to include that in your narrative. Make sure that you watch that and that you clearly understand what to do for that. And then tomorrow you will be uploading the next 300 words that you do in your narrative. And again, on Wednesday, we'll kind of put everything together and we'll make sure that everything's finished by the end of class and turned in. After Wednesday, you're not gonna have any more class time to work on it, okay? So you really do have a lot to do over the next couple of days. All right, I think everybody understands how to do MLA style, okay? But let me go ahead and pull up a blank document. For MLA, you're just going to put your first and last name. You're going to put Miss Shaver, okay? You're going to put 10th literature, and then you'll put the whatever block it is. So you would put like fourth block or block. You could, how about this? You put second or fourth block, whatever you are. Okay, and then the due date is going to be Wednesday. So let's do 30 September 2020. I'm going to go ahead and make this Times New Roman. You guys can kind of see me doing this. Times New Roman and 12-point font. Okay, the spacing, I'm going to make it double. Remember, in Word Online, you may have to go to the ... and that's okay to get that. And then again, you'll have your title here. So I would, in your title, make sure that you put whatever sort of your main event is. That's what you'll describe there. And then you guys will go to Insert and then Page Number, and then top of page, and here it's going to be the third one down, and then you'll put your last name, okay? And that's how you format everything in MLA format, okay? So basically today, I want you to upload what your major event is and then your first 200 words. Now, you don't have to necessarily format all of this today. If you want to do that on Wednesday, that's 100% fine too. If you have any questions about what you're supposed to do for this assignment, please make sure you email me and let me know. I will be available to talk to you guys from 1 to 1:30 today. So I'm going to set up a meeting. So if you have any questions at all about this narrative assignment, you can talk to me between 1 and 1:30. Your assignment is not going to be due until midnight tonight because I want to give you guys enough time to really think about this narrative, what you want to do, and upload, your best work. So make sure that you are working on it and know that I won't be able to answer questions after 3:30 today. But if you have any questions, hop onto that meeting between 1 and 1:30, and I'd be happy to meet with you guys and answer any questions you have about the narrative. Okay. I look forward to reading these. Make sure that you guys are working hard over the next 2 days and let me know if you have any questions. All right. Take care. Bye.